I was actually in Paris when the Paris Climate Treaty was being negotiated, sitting in the front row of the press conferences, watching Christiana in action, and it was, I'm a bit awestruck. I'm here now. A slightly smaller audience. Or not.
Or not. No, but thank you both. Thank you both for bringing your wisdom to climate. I realize that I first came to climate because of loss. I then came to spirituality because of loss. And I'm now deepening my practice because of loss and the grief around loss. And that golden thread hadn't been so evident to me until recently. So I came to climate when I was a very young mother. And I was astounded to find out that this one little species that was endemic in Costa Rica that I had fallen in love with as a teenager no longer existed, and that it had gone extinct.
Was that the frog?
The golden frog. And when I wanted to take my daughters to experience this miracle, it was gone. And I was just so impacted because that is not the terms of reference for a parent. Terms of reference for a parent, a mother, a father, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, is to give future generations a better planet, a safer, a more stable, a more just, a healthier planet, not the reverse. And I just felt, oh my God, I received a healthy planet with an amazingly wonderful biodiversity and presence of so many non-human species. And now I'm turning over a planet with less species. If I have personally witnessed the loss of one species, that means that there must be many other species that are disappearing. And I just thought that is just not acceptable to me. It is not acceptable. So I started walking myself into what on earth is going on, and I found out it's climate change. Well, I up until then, I hadn't even known that there were scientists working on this. This was in the early 90s. And I said, right, so who's working on this? Who's going to be addressing this issue? And very soon I found myself in UN negotiations as a Costa Rican representative and worked in that capacity for a long time because of the pain of loss, because of the planetary loss that caused planetary pain and personal pain. Then, as I was working on this, and I was just so focused on the loss of nature, integrity, the loss of human quality of life, and I was just very focused on, so how do we, quote unquote, solve this? And that consumed me for so many years. Then I went in 2013, after taking on the responsibility for the negotiations, I went into a deep marital crisis that ended up in terminating my marriage. And that was the second loss. That was such a loss to me because I had convinced myself that I was in the perfect marriage, the perfect family, you know? And I thought that's going to last forever, as long as we're alive. And when I experienced that loss, then that's when I gratefully discovered Buddhism. I discovered the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh that honestly saved my life. And I worked with those teachings until I had come back to a certain state of stability in my own personal life that supported my professional work, which was the negotiation of the Paris Agreement. And today, let's say as of the past 2 to 3 to 4 years, I have been so deeply aware of another loss. And that is the loss of faith. The loss of faith, especially of so many young people who just do not believe that they have any future. So many young people who have decided, we're not going to have children because we don't want to bring children into such a painful world that is degenerating, and they don't want to do it to their children, to their would-be children, and they don't want to put more human pressure on the resources. And that loss of faith, that loss of joy, that loss in the confidence of the human and the shared non-human experience on this planet it just hit me like a 4x4. Again, another loss. And so I remain committed to this because I'm not accepting that loss is the end of the story. I have my feet firmly in the mud of loss. And I don't think that we can deny any loss, because then we do grief bypass, right? Oh, well, it's okay because we're going to fix it. We're going to put, I don't know, solar panels, or we're going to put wind turbines, or, and all of which is true. And there are many technologies now that are helping us to address this. But if we are not absolutely conscious, and not just conscious in our heads, but conscious in our gut, in our full being, of the loss that we're experiencing, that we have caused, of the grief that has taken over the global mood, then we don't have any ground to stand on. So to me, standing in that loss is the foundational capacity that we have to have the opportunity, although not the guarantee, to transform that grief and that loss. So why am I here? Because of loss.